All right, good morning, everybody. We're really happy that all of you came down to Johnsonville to join us today, and welcome you to Florence 5 if you're a first-time visitor here, and to Johnsonville Middle School. So we're all thrilled to have you here, and we're very happy to have our distinguished guests with us, and we appreciate everything that the legislature is doing to help supply the needed supplies that we need to start school. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Governor McMaster.
Thank you. I think we're all getting used to wearing masks these days. It's kind of hard to recognize people. I recognize my cousin, Henry Swink, sitting there. I can recognize him in the dark. It's funny, Roger, as much as I get on television, I find out I get recognized a lot whether they have a mask on or not. And Ronnie, my daughter, my family's on there, even the bulldog. You know, we got that little bulldog. Not long ago, my daughter was calling someone to get some furniture. She and her husband were buying a house. And the woman says, oh, yeah, McMaster, I saw your dad out at the Home Depot the other day. And we all wearing masks. She said they all masked up. They had the dog, and there were three men all wearing the dark suits walking around. And she said, my little 9-year-old boy says, who is that over there, Mama? They look important. She said, well, you figure, you tell me who you think it is. So we walked around, and we noticed that there were a lot of people in the store. Anyway, we went and got out, and they pulled up the big black Suburbans, 2 of them, and we got in and drove off. And Mama says to the little 9-year-old, says, well, you know who that is? She says, they look mighty important. He says, I think that's the governor, isn't it? She said, yeah, how you know? She said, I recognize the dog. True stories are always great. I want to thank all of you for coming here. This is a beautiful school. Dr. Smiley, I know you and your team have done a great job. We got a lot of talented people in South Carolina, a lot of them in this room right now. And that's why I keep saying that our future is unlimited. If we can just educate these children, if we can educate these young people, there's no limit on what we can accomplish. I've worked with Ronnie Saab when I was in the Senate as Lieutenant Governor, and he does an excellent job. Terry Alexander is not here today, but he was coming. Roger Kirby, I appreciate your great work as well. Superintendent Smiley, Dr. Neil Vincent was with her where's Dr. Vincent? Was here when the Vice President came. There he is back there in the back. Dr. Laura Hickson, Superintendent of Florence 3. Dr. Dan Strickland, Superintendent Florence 4. And Mr. Kyle Jones, the Chief Technology Officer. And boy, we need more and more understanding of technology as we go forward. But I'm happy to be here in Johnsonville Middle School. And I got to say, Henry Swink riding over, I think it's Highway 340, after we got off I-20 on 341 and 378. Sometimes we take it for granted how beautiful South Carolina is. And going through and looking at the corn and the soybeans and whatever else we were looking at, and the pine trees all over the place, and the neat little houses, and church after church after church. It really is a remarkable place in all of our parts, whether you're in the mountains or the beach or everything in between. We are in the best place in the whole world to live, I believe, and that's why these businesses are coming here. They invest in hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, and it is because, as they tell me, whether they're from South Korea, Japan, France, Germany, anywhere else. You know, BMW, their biggest manufacturing plant in the world is in Greer. They put out, a new car just about one a minute, or maybe less than that. It's remarkable what they do. Why do they come to South Carolina? It is because of the beauty and the richness of what I've just mentioned, but they all say it's because of the people, the people, the people. It's something that we have that you can't manufacture. It's something that takes generations and centuries to build, but we've got it. But the key to it right now in our world, and I know this is not news to anybody in this room, is education. We got to educate these children. The culture, the kind of people that we've built over these years in all of our different parts with ups and downs are special and are strong and are the kind of thing that world leaders recognize as being important. But if we can't educate them, then all that will go to waste. So that's why we're here. We're in education. Education is a part of our economic development. We can't have economic growth and prosperity and good health and all that goes along with that unless we have education, and we can't have education unless we have economic growth and prosperity. So we've got to see that it's done, and that means, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get the children back into the classrooms. And one thing we have to do that is to be sure that in this pandemic, which is unlike anything we've seen in a long time, I think the Spanish flu was 1918. None of us here have seen anything like this before, I don't think. Maybe somewhere in some other countries, but nothing like that here. So we have to do these smart things, which we know how to do, in order to educate these children. Brain power is the way to the future. It is a dangerous world. We've got to know what we're doing. We've got to be able to move quicker, faster, more nimble, and farther than the rest of the countries in the world, because there's a lot of danger out there. So that brings us right here at the beginning, to educate the children. So Florence School District 5 and all the representatives from the Florence School Districts, we're here to talk about the state purchase and provision of personal protective equipment, known as PPE, we've all call it now, to safely reopen the schools. We all know that the best way for the children to learn is face-to-face with teachers. I talked to a superintendent up in the upstate not long ago. He'd been in the business for 41 years. His name's Tom Wilson in Anderson. He said, I could not teach a child to read if my life depended on it. I just can't do it. I do other things. But we have teachers who know how to teach children to read, how to write, how to think, how to grow. And it is important that we get those children in front of those teachers, and we do so safely. So this is a $10 million investment that we're making, that these gentlemen here and others I mentioned were responsible for getting in available to use to buy this personal protective equipment for these schools. The General Assembly allocated $155 million from a state contingency reserve fund to create the COVID-19 Response Reserve Account. They authorized me as governor to use these funds to, quote, protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. The 5 school districts in Florence County, in Florence, requested and will receive, and have you received it yet?
We have.
You have received it? And the $10 million worth of state monies from that account in order to purchase this equipment. Of this state investment in the health and safety of our students and teachers, the 5 Florence school districts will receive over $659,000 in personal protective supplies for such things as cloth masks and shields for students as teachers, as well as gloves, hand sanitizers, disinfection solutions, and anything else that comes on the market to help keep the children and the teachers and administrators safe. Here today are members of the Florence and Williamsburg counties, representatives who were instrumental in authorizing the funds and helping us keep the teachers and students safe and to reopen the schools. I already mentioned Senator Ronnie Sabb, Representative Roger Kirby. Not with us today is Senator Hugh Leatherman, who, of course, has been instrumental in many things. Virtually everything has happened in this part of the state and elsewhere over the years, and it could not have been done without his leadership and theirs. And also, I want to thank Henry Swink for your participation in Accelerate SC, which is provided with 30 or so professionals, as well as people assisting from around the state that developed the blueprint for doing what we're doing today. We know that the children have lost valuable learning progress due to the schools being closed. We know there's no real good substitute. We know they've been isolated from their teachers and their friends and their daily routines, and we know that that is not a good thing. We know that learning about months of isolation that they have experienced has not impacted them favorably. We know that their mental health repercussions, their emotional repercussions And we know there's the same in our nursing homes and other places as well. All things that need to be carefully monitored, and we need to fix it, and we need to be sure that we're all moving forward. But the children need to be in the classroom. Attending school helps protect many of our most vulnerable children and allows our teachers to intervene when necessary. We know we've learned when the schools closed down, we learned or were reminded again about how many of our people rely on that school lunch program. And I know that the Department of Education distributed, often with the help of the National Guard, millions of meals to the children during that period. Highly important. This is a good example. What we did then, what we're doing now, what we're doing right here in this place is a great example of how we in South Carolina have learned to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate with each other outside of the silos. We break them down, we pick up the phone and we call, and we assemble all our talents and assets to meet the needs of our people in order to manage our way through this pandemic, which we will do, and also achieve the success and prosperity that's the key to our success for the future. So I want to thank Molly Spearman of the Department of Education, the State Fiscal Accountability Authority, Department of Transportation, and the Emergency Management Division that all played a great role in making all of this happen. It doesn't just happen by accident. We've had, in our state, we've had experience with hurricanes, Roger, and we know how to talk to each other. And there are other states that this pandemic, this is the first time they've seen anything like this, anything where they had to all operate as a team around the whole state. But we've done it before with hurricanes. We'll be doing it some more with hurricanes. And so we've had good practice, and that is why South Carolina, of all the states, we were able to go into the situation with a deliberate, targeted approach, and we're coming out with a deliberate, targeted approach. And this is a part of that approach, and I'm confident that it will meet with great success. So I'm happy to be here, honored to be a guest. Look forward to coming again. And again, I urge everyone, just appreciate what we got. We are living in the best place in the whole world. There's not another place that can come close. And it's mighty gratifying to me to see people around the world recognizing that. Thank you.
Senator Saab, would you care to say a few words for us?
Still morning. So thank you for the opportunity and for all the fine work that's going on in the Florence School District. Thank you, Governor McMaster, and welcome to another, as you've indicated, beautiful part of our state. As a young boy, having been born and reared in Greeleyville, South Carolina, as I grew older, never wanted to leave. And when I wasn't able to find a job and had to leave, I always wanted to be presented with an opportunity to come back. And so I was blessed and fortunate to come back home, and I will just tell you that home continues to be, for Ronnie Saab, where my heart is. I want to thank Governor McMaster for his leadership and for the opportunity to come and gather and be a part of this very important discussion. Governor McMaster is somebody who I have just an incredible amount of respect for. In fact, from time to time, I refer to him as my homeboy because of his roots in Kingstree, South Carolina, and of course, Kingstree is the county seat for Williamsburg. What you all are seeing really has been a collaborative effort by the General Assembly, which is our legislative branch, and of course with our executive branch under the leadership of Governor McMaster. And so we are where I would deem a place called uncharted territory. President George Bush reminded all of us some years ago that educating our youth is the most important job that we have. And I continue to agree with that statement. However, I also believe that protecting our children is an even greater responsibility. And as I see us in this moment, I'm satisfied that if we're not careful and if we don't protect them properly, that we won't be able to educate them. And so it forces us to have a balanced approach. What I've witnessed across South Carolina is nothing short of remarkable, because I have seen our superintendents go to work. I've seen them pull together members of the community, members from the medical community, business leaders, and of course educators, to come together with all of the varying plans about how we ought to reopen our schools and put us in a position where we can have the best chance at educating them. And all of us agree that that's face-to-face, in-person instruction. The question continues to be when and how. And so I'm thankful for all of the school districts and all of their asks. As we've looked at the asks, they are absolutely appropriate. And I'm proud of the work that the General Assembly did in creating the pool with $155 million, and obviously proud of the manner in which the governor's office has gone about the business of responding to the needs of our schools. I think I'd be remiss, and I think everybody in here, by and large, has on masks. And so I want to lend my voice to this mask discussion. I'm satisfied that the science that suggests that if two people are wearing masks and one of them is positive with COVID-19, that there's only a 1.5% chance that we spread the virus. This notion that we can save some 45,000 lives if all of us were to wear masks, well, I realize that that is an estimate. But think about it. If we save one life by wearing a mask, then our sacrifice is not in vain. And so I just want everybody to be conscious of the fact that it is important for us to be masked up, for us to social distance, for us to sanitize and wash our hands regularly. I'll make two other points and then I'll pass it back to our moderator. And one of the points that I want to make is as we look at the hot spots in our state, and I know that I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but when we look at the hot spots in our state, we simply have to be careful, cautious, and prudent about how we allow our children to go back into the classrooms. I've talked to parents day in and day out, and everybody's nervous about it because we want our children to receive the best education that we can potentially provide, but by the same token, we want our babies safe. And so I believe that we can accomplish both, y'all. There was a sermon that I listened to some years ago, and I'm concluding now. And it was all about a gentleman that had plans to be somewhere. And as misfortune would have it, there were several delays on his way to his destination. But eventually, he got there. Took an extra day, but he got there. And so when I look at this idea of educating our children, I hearken it to what occurred with that gentleman. And so he eventually got to his destination, but he had layovers. And so I would urge us as we look at this notion of when our children can get back into the classroom, that it is simply a layover experience for them, and that when they arrive at their destination, whatever time that is, when they get back into the classroom and it is safe for them to do so, I believe that we will all be satisfied about the fact that they are there. And I think that there'll be a fierce urgency about trying to impart as much education as we can with them for the time that we have to get it done. Is that allowing education to go on into the summer to make up for lost time? I leave that to you educators. I trust you all with our children. And so Governor McMaster is given all that he has to this cause, and so are the rest of us. Final point. If we had a situation in our body, in our government, where all of us agreed on everything and how we get there, we'd only have probably one of us doing the thinking. My belief, Governor, is that as we debate these issues earnestly, all of us wanting to obtain the same goal, that we're stronger, we're better, and we're smarter. And as you've indicated, we have been through these situations before, and we've worked together as a team, and we've come out having done well. I believe that at the end of this process, because of the manner in which we continue to communicate with each other, we'll make some of the best prudent decisions we can. Thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you. And Representative Kirby.
Good, thank you. Thank you, guys. It's really an honor to be here. Governor, you don't know how much joy you brought to a lot of people coming to Johnsonville, South Carolina to make this fabulous announcement. I want to just as a point of privilege recognize the mayor of Johnsonville who's sitting here, Mr. Johnny Hanna. Johnny, if you'll wave to everybody. If y'all hadn't had the opportunity to meet him, he's doing a great job over here. I have the fortune of representing Johnsonville. It's in House District 61. And I want to brag for just a minute about my superintendents. Neil in the back there, of course, Randy over here, and Laura. What a great job. It's just incredible. I've watched them through the summer, Governor, work, prepare, trying to get everything ready for these kids to get back in school where they belong. And it's not been an easy task. And I just want to thank them personally and publicly for the amount of work and effort they put into this. All you school board members, raise your hands, please. Yeah, thank y'all. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all the extra work you've done as well. This is a very, very, very unusual time we find ourselves in. But I am so confident that as we work together, Governor, as we have worked together, and with this great announcement for the PPE, which is just one of the really major initiatives that we've got going on in South Carolina for our educational systems, we're going to be successful. And nobody in this room doesn't want to see our children get a good education. That's the reason you're here. That's the reason I'm here. And certainly that's the reason the governor and Senator Sabb are here. So thank y'all. I don't have a lot to add because it's already been said, but I just want to thank y'all for the opportunity to serve House District 61, and thank you all for being here and for your support of public education in the state of South Carolina. And Governor, a special thanks to you and your team for taking time to come to Johnsonville and seeing the pearl of the PD in this whole region. House District 61 is a beautiful spot, and thank you all. Appreciate you.
Let me mention we also have some city councilmen here today too. Would y'all raise your hands back there? So we really appreciate y'all coming out today as well. And I think we're at the point that we turn it to you guys for questions. So do you folks have any questions?
Two. For the Governor.
Okay.
The first, I'll toss out the first one, the easy one first. Have you all looked at polio back in the 50s as a reference point on how to deal with bringing the kids back to school with a pandemic in place?
Yes, those, all the epidemics, pandemics around the world, as well as the things that have occurred in this country, have been studied over and over again to come up with the best practices for this one. And those are the ones that have been announced and circulated among this state as well as all of the others, particularly by the Center for Disease Control. That's based on the history of those incidents. That is where those came from. Next question.
And the second one, the hard one.
Hard one.
Are you afraid that there could be deaths associated with bringing the kids back to school?
I think we'll continue to have deaths in South Carolina and the rest of the country. But we know we know that we must bring the economy back. Shutting down the economy will do more damage, permanent damage, than even a war. It's the same sort of we cannot keep the economy shut. Theoretically, if everyone stayed home and didn't go anywhere, maybe the virus would go away, at least for a while, and till somebody coughed in North Carolina and it started up again. So the virus could be with us. It's something we're going to have to address. But we've got to keep the economy going. But we can do that if we are smart, if we do the things that we know work. And I'm happy to see that the cities and the counties, the municipalities in South Carolina, of which we have, I think, 271 cities and municipalities, and then, of course, 46 counties, every one of them has the authority, Senator Sabb, to pass whatever rules and regulations, ordinances they believe are appropriate for their community. What is appropriate for Johnsonville may not be the same thing that's appropriate for Charleston or for Myrtle Beach or for Greenville. But the people in this room know the businesses, know the people, know the flow and current of activities here, and every locality has the information, the facts, and the power to implement the rules that best serve their people, just as this school district has developed the rules that best for this school district. One way to require people to do things is at the state level. Of course, you have the federal level. One way is at the state level. That often is the most inefficient way. We pass laws every day, criminal laws included, and of course people break them anyway. But in something like this, probably the most inefficient way to cause the kind of promote the behavior that we're looking for, which is social distancing, wearing masks, is from the state level. The better way is at the county and city level. That is where you have neighbors speaking to neighbors, putting together the facts that they have and drawing up what is perfect, what is right for them. The best way is individually, as individuals. As with a little bit of discipline and with a little bit of facts and understanding, every individual has the power to take care of that individual as well as his or her family and friends. So those are the three ways to get things done. So I'm happy that I think it's now over 100 of our counties and municipalities have passed ordinances and rules concerning social distancing, masks, and events and other things. That is the way it needs to be done. That is proven. It is demonstrated the best way. And since our communities have been doing that under the power given them by home rule, you notice that the incident rates are starting to decline. We don't know what causes what. Cause and effect is sometimes difficult to establish. But I am confident from what I have seen during this time, not only in our state, but in other parts of the country, that what we're doing here is the best way to do it. And I take my hat off to the school, to the education authorities, both at this level and at the university level and other places, where we have enormous talent, enormous understanding, enormous experience. in coming up and devising rules and procedures that will work. So I'm confident that South Carolina is going to do well. Now, unfortunately, we're going to have people that continue to get sick and continue to pass away. The average age of those who are leaving us because of this virus is somewhere between 73 years of age and 78. It's not the young people that are getting sick, or they may get sick, but some of them don't show it because they're young, strong, and the young children don't. The statistics show that they don't pass the virus as easily as the older ones do. But if we have all those facts and we have the resources that we need to use, which some of you are wearing with the face masks, the shields, and the gloves, and all of those, then I'm confident that we can get through this as well or better than any other place in the country. That's a long answer to a short question. I hope I answered it.
You did.
What can you say for parents who are just worried? I talk to them all the time. They don't have a choice. They have to work. They cannot send their kids to school to learn virtually, or they can't do the virtual academies. What do you say to a parent?
That is a big concern. It is a major concern, and that is one reason that I'm here. That is one reason that Representative Kirby and Senator Saab and others passed the legislation allowing, and not out of the CARES Act, but out of state money, $155 million to do what we're doing today. That is to help the schools in their effort to reopen, to get the children back in the classroom. We know that that's the best place for the children to be. There are a lot of people we know, a lot of people that have a mom and dad both working. There's no place for the children to go except to school. Their lives center around the public school system. And when that system is not open, then all sorts of dislocations happen. And you have single family parents as well that are experiencing that. That is why I have encouraged the parents to get in touch with the schools, and I've encouraged the schools to let the parents decide what they want to do. If you have parents that want their children to come to school for 5 days, then open up for 5 days. Find a way to do it. There will be enough parents who would prefer a virtual learning situation or a hybrid situation to where every child probably will not be at the school. That will eliminate some of the crowding that we would normally have. And we've seen that in a school just yesterday at Wateree Elementary in Kershaw County. About 50%, as of a couple of days ago, the students were coming back. Another 50% were going to do it virtual. And those doing it virtually were taking a wait-and-see approach to see how it goes in the classroom for those others. And then after 4.5 weeks, I think they can opt to come back in. So there are many ways to do it, but we realize that's why we're here. That's why we're doing what we're doing, that it is vitally important to our state as well as every other state to have those young people, those children, in school face-to-face with that teacher as quickly but as safely as we can.
Will the PPE that the district's got today, will it be enough for it to last throughout the duration of the school year?
If it's not, you let us know, and we'll have some more.
Absolutely.
We're not gonna run out of PPE for the teachers, administrators, and students. Fortunately, they're making a lot of it now. A lot of the manufacturers used to make this, and now making that, and so we have an abundance of a lot of things. We were very scarce at the beginning, so that's good. And another thing that's coming along is that we're looking for the testing machines that can test for the virus and give you a result in 15 minutes. The Trump administration is working around the clock to get the manufacturers of those to get them here. And the first place they want them to go is the nursing homes, which is they're in a critical situation, as you know. And they're starting to come to the state, but not nearly enough. And we hope to have, just as the supply of PPE has expanded over the weeks, we hope the same thing will happen with those machines.
Governor, what economic impacts do you expect over the next 2 months or so, as these schools reopen, tied to the schools reopening, how do you think that'll impact our state's economy? And what do you say to some teachers that have said to me that they feel like our economy is being reopened on the backs of our teachers and on the backs of their safety?
Well, public health consists of a number of parts. One is your physical health, one is your economic health, one is your mental health. As a result of the isolation that has been imposed all around the country, some less so in South Carolina than some other places. Some other states, they closed down manufacturing plants. That's why a lot of new cars aren't coming out in some places. But because of those isolations, there are dislocations, as we just mentioned. There will be serious ramifications, serious economic ramifications if working parents have no place for their children to go. There are not enough child care centers to put them in. We know that. The public education system that addresses about 750,000 of our young people is essential to the well-being of our state. So if we wear masks, if we social distance like we are here, if everybody washes your hands and all throughout the day, we know that those things work. DHEC announced the other day, just recently, that those things are working around the state. We know that. If we do that, then there's no reason for our economy not to open back up. Now, we'll still be hammered by and slowed by the chains of supply coming in. That some companies are closed down in another place, or can't get parts and things in around the country. Those kind of dislocations are still out there, although they are subsiding some. But we've got to get back to work. There are companies, businesses that people have built up over the years, and they simply can't hold their breath that long. They've got to get back. But again, we can have an open economy. We can be going humming. Our businesses, our industries, all, if we use these precautions. Wear that mask, keep that distance. And if you're riding on one of the tractors we saw coming in, spraying in the fields out there, you don't need to wear a mask out there because you're the only one out there. You're not going to catch it from the soybeans or whatever it was that was spraying. But, I mean, you got to be smart about it. But we know how to stop or to at least slow the spread of the virus. And I know the Trump administration is working around the clock to find a vaccine, and I sure hope that comes soon. But that's ultimately that will be the answer. Yes, sir.
Governor, most school districts are starting on or around September 8th, so just about 3 weeks or so from today. How prepared do you feel like school districts across the state are to begin that fall semester?
I think they're well prepared. I think the superintendent could perhaps want to chime in and answer that, what he's seen. But from what I've seen, the people we've talked to, and we get information from a lot of different sources, the schools are working around the clock to find a way to do what is best for their students. And that includes, of course, face-to-face 5 days, some hybrid or some learning, virtual learning component.
Yes.
Would you like to answer that?
Indeed. And for some of us who...
Can you come to the mic?
And it's a new way of doing things for us. And for us who were not a one-to-one district before and going virtual, it's a challenge for us. But I will say all of our teachers are on board. All of our teachers are working. They want to make it work. We're following all the protocols. We're socially distancing. We're doing everything that we can to make this place as safe as we can and to make the education as productive as we can. And as we begin, I think we will be doing a good job. And parents are going to need to realize that we may hit a few road bumps, especially with virtual, but we'll iron those out and we'll proceed on and we'll give a good quality product to the citizens of our area.
Thank you.
And I think everybody in the room will agree, and Representative Kirby and Senator Saab emphatically, we've got to get broadband everywhere.
Yes, sir.
That's for telehealth, telemedicine, teleeducation, you name it. We've got to do that. And now, just imagine in this state, I get carried away sometimes. I read history all the time, and all the explorers, when they were coming out looking, discovering what they called then the New World, they were all telling the kings and queens that this was the most lush, most productive, most bountiful place in the entire New World. And it is, and we see it every day. If we can just have all the resources available to teach our people and to get information to them, then there really is no stopping this state where everybody knows everybody. Most of us are related one way or another. We can move around and do things very quickly they just dream of in other places. Any more questions?
I have one for Mr. Smiley.
Yes, ma'am.
Internet service over here, you know, how reliable is it? And in some cases, I know when I work over here, I almost have to drive all the way back to Florence because I don't have a stable connection.
When we did our initial surveys for those students wanting to go virtual, we asked if they had reliable internet service. And for those who don't, we have the hotspots that we're going to be giving out, both Verizon and AT&T, provided through the state. And we have enough of those for those who have requested it to give those out. And so for us, I think that's going to work.
I have one more for you, Governor. I think, as you know, Accelerate Ed, when they first put out the guidelines, there was some talk of, you know, looking at the county disease activity as to determine whether in-person or virtual was the best route. I guess my biggest question is, what changed between that guidance being put out and now, where we're saying it's okay for kids to be in the classroom in some capacity despite all our counties still being high disease activity?
Well, there are other states that are trying to do the same thing we're trying to do. There is no one plan that will work everywhere, but we know this. We know it's a fact that the children need to learn. So we have to figure out how to teach them. And for some, face-to-face is the only way. They just cannot learn any other way. So that's why it is important to listen to the parents and to let the parents make the decision as to whether they want the children to go back or to do virtual learning. But we know for a fact, we know this everywhere, that whether the county is high or low or in between or going up or going down or whatever is going on, we know that wearing these masks, doing that, washing your hands, keeping that distance, all those things, as well as good health, getting some exercise, taking vitamins, eating the right food, all those kind of things that play a role in it. We know that those work. So if we do what we know works, we will be able to make it through. Y'all, thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you, and we'll be watching, and I know you will have huge success, Dr. Smiley. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, one other thing I just wanted to add. Senator Leatherman hoped to be here today. However, he is rocking babies with his wife, and they're on vacation, and he just wanted me to be sure to let y'all know how much, Governor, he appreciated your being here in this area, and send his best to all of you. So, thank you.
Thank you.